Gen Z's obsession with internet aesthetics is only getting worse as time passes. With millions of videos from across social media displaying the hundreds of aesthetics one can embody, it's no wonder why Gen Z are changing identities every other month, their mental health steadily declining, and squandering any originality that was left with millions of similar videos. For the past few weeks, I've been consuming aesthetic content from all across the web, and even managed to join different communities to gain more insight in their overall impact. And today, I want to have a deep discussion on the concept of aesthetics and how they can impact you on a much deeper level than you may think. So with all that being said, let's dive into the landscape of aesthetics. The first part of this essay I want to cover is first dissecting the content itself. I actually have a few problems with the content while I was researching this. I noticed a lot of trends, I noticed a lot of similarities, and the first one that I noticed is that, look, the amount of expensive items that are in the video. Now look, it's okay to splurge every once in a while, and I'm not even necessarily saying that you can't have these products, but it's the way that they're displayed. Obviously, is an aesthetic video. You want to show the best of the best. In this, sense, we're talking about products. You want to show the best products, right? You want to show the products that have the nice, clean, sleek design model, and typically these products are at higher prices. And like I said, while I'm okay with you having these, I'm not necessarily bagging anyone, but it's the way that it's displayed. It seemed as almost if you need this product. If you don't have this aesthetically pleasing, mirror full of different products and in all this, then it seems like you're in the wrong, right? You're the one that needs to step your game up, when in reality, we don't need it. Sure, the actual products itself, you can have skincare products for sure. I'm actually, in a full agreement with that. But you don't need to get the $40 little bottle of moisturizer. You don't need to get these, all these extra anti-aging serums and just the night AM, just all of it, right? Like, you don't need to get every single product you see on TikTok Shop, on, just anything, YouTube, just because it was placed in a specific spot, right? It was aesthetically pleasing. That's crazy. Think about that. You actually can spend a surplus of money on skincare just because when someone opened their drawer and you saw the cabinet full of skincare, you thought, ooh, that looks really, really nice. I'm gonna get this. And this is just obviously beyond skincare, but this goes between like just everything in terms of the day. You notice that everyone has the mason jars, everyone has, the fanciest journal, notebook, and all this. And what I think this does is it kind of subconsciously, it kind of deters the new beginners, right, from actually wanting to kind of improve, because they see all this content around them and they think, oh, because I don't have the newest journal, I can't necessarily journal. You can journal with a composition notebook. You can drink water out of a water bottle. You can, you know what I mean? Like, these are just things, you don't need to have the aesthetically pleasing item. Now, yes, I am specifically more so talking about the that girl trend and, just that type of aesthetic. But even just anything else when it comes to dark academia and just any other aesthetic, you don't need, right, the most expensive product. You just simply don't. Obviously I'm talking from the perspective of, I'm assuming a person to person, but even if you want to look at it from a business side of things to consumer, right, this right here is the gold mine, right? All these companies, they prey on people. They prey on people's downfall, right? They're preying on the downfall of you lacking an identity and you seeing these products being placed so perfectly. Oh man, the crispiest thing. And they eat off of you because, you're just like subconsciously, oh, okay, no, this is nice. I'm gonna just add the cart. All right, boom, got it. And this is, like I said, that's more of the business side of things, but just wanted to kind of bring a new perspective on that. Another thing, trying to make everything an aesthetic. And I mean everything. You can go on Pinterest, and the amount of times, right, that you might see a simple picture, right, a simple picture of a freaking table, and someone will comment, what is the aesthetic? That is crazy. Are we really categorizing life now by aesthetics? There's been plenty of stories of people wearing just normal clothing and being approached to them and saying, "Hey, what aesthetic are you, rocking today?" What aesthetic? I just put on these clothes randomly. What are we talking about here? Like it's crazy how everyone is so quick nowadays to make everything an aesthetic. Everyone wants to categorize things. And this is proven too because I mean, you look at the aesthetics wiki page. I mean, look at it. There's so many, cottage core, dream core, trauma core. Like there's so many cores in different aesthetics that at this point it's kind of losing its touch. Are we seriously going to be living life now with, this is how we're going to categorize things is by aesthetics? And the worst part about it, about this whole thing, and this is what I've kind of, seen recently, is that they will think that they are pioneering a whole new wave of aesthetic. Like they just created a whole new aesthetic. No one, basically did this. We're running this. Newsflash, buddy. This has already been a thing. And, people, specifically Gen Z, of course, in this case, just love, taking credit for things that have already existed and just making it an aesthetic. Like this is kind of a nasty product. Like I said, especially with like history, rich history we have back then. It's crazy how we're moving this way. And this is kind of getting scarier as the years goes on, especially with AI now. And I don't even know exactly how AI would fit in this. Let me guys know. How exactly will AI, fit with this whole aesthetic wave and all this, but something just tells me that it's gonna get worse from here. Now, typically, where are these videos that we see these aesthetics from? What is the primary location? TikTok, right? And what is TikTok? I think you can upload more than a minute videos. I don't know. I think you can, but essentially, right, you're only seeing, let's just say in most cases, up to a minute, right, of someone living out an aesthetic. 1 minute out of a whole 24 hours. Okay, cool. Someone might sleep 8 hours. All right, fine. 16 hours. You were seeing 1 minute out of 16 hours in a day. And the reason why I want to emphasize this is because we see a lot of these videos about someone living dark academia. Maybe they painted the room. They're really living out the aesthetic, right? Well, newsflash, that's not really the case, right? Is someone really living out an aesthetic 100% of the day, living in character, depending on, what aesthetic it is, 100% of the day? I don't think so, man. Like, let's just be real. They're not doing it, and it's fine, right? It's fine. But because it's only a minute long and someone might see the footage and be like, ooh, this is something I want to live out, there's a lack, there's like this like vagueness between the creator and the viewer who watches it. And it sucks that it's kind of like this. I will say, I don't necessarily think you should clarify, because it should be something that's already like, it should already kind of click in your mind. But essentially, there's this vagueness in between, and the vagueness in between is the lack of communication that, hey, I'm not living out this aesthetic 100% of the day. I'm just not, right? And because, someone might not, necessarily, they might see this footage and think otherwise. They try to live out this aesthetic 100% down to a T, when this is not the case. You might live out this aesthetic, right? And okay, someone might, be going to museums. I'm just choosing dark academia, right? But, read old literature, do all this and that, right? You might paint your whole room. You go in your room, you fit the aesthetic, right? Let's say you're living out in your room and all this, and then you walk outside your room and you see your mom cooking. You see the old photos with, the old picture frames your mom had since like freaking the 90s. You see your couch and you see your dog. Right? Like you just like, and you see daytime TV on the TV screen, bro. Like you can't live out this aesthetic 100% of the day. And I think, and I'm going to save this for a deeper discussion, so I'm going to touch on this point a little bit later, more in depth. But essentially, I'm going to say for this section of the video when it comes to this is that it kind of ruins your point of view, and it makes you essentially kind of not hate, but it kind of makes you have unnecessary frustration towards other things and other people. That's all I'm going to say for now. Stay tuned later in the video. I get more in depth on that. But that's just a problem that I have with this. It's kind of even with like the that girl trend and that glowing up as a guy and a girl whatnot, right? We see all these productivity videos of waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, right? They're journaling, they set down their workout outfit and with all the cuts in it, the edits. They're drinking out of a mason jar, skincare. They all got the same exact products. We see all this and we're thinking, man, like, I can't wait. I'm about to enter my new era, this and that. For sure. I'm not saying you can't, but it depends on you as a person. Have you actually sat down and questioned or not? Does waking up at 5 a.m. actually benefit me? Now, what do you mean by that, right? What do you mean? Of course, right? The earlier the better. Don't get it twisted. Yes, I'm not saying you should necessarily wake up at, 3, 4 p.m., but we all have a biological prime time, right? And I think that if we can maximize our own biological prime time and when we're the most active, then we can really see that, hey, waking up at 5 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. isn't necessary, right? It isn't necessary. You don't need to do it, right? You still want to, right? But it's not necessary. And I feel like if we all collectively had this critical thinking, right, after we see every one of these aesthetics, I think that we would just have a better understanding. Like I said, it's one of the things that it should already be kind of noted when you feel me, when you're watching it, but that's sadly not the case. The last problem I have with this content in particular is how people romanticize their mundane life. You can do this every once in a while. I'm not saying that you can never do this, but to consistently 100% of the day expect every day to be full of joy and happiness and essentially, like I said, romanticizing, freaking taking out the trash, washing the dishes, and making your bed, it's just not doable, man. Look, obviously, if we're always on, feeling good 100% of the time, let's be real, right? As much as we want, to be free from our problems, we want clarity, we want all these things, right? If we were feeling really good 100% of the day, let's just be real, it would be boring. All right, let's be real, it would be boring, right? As much as we don't like problems, it's what makes up life, right? You need to have conflict. It's like a movie, right? Imagine you go to a movie and there's no conflict, and it's just all good times, and then it ends. What type of movie is that? What type of movie? That's not a good movie. It's the same thing with life. And, a lot of these people, right, especially with like content creators in general, I see this on YouTube a lot, like romanticizing my life and this and that. It's just not a good mental state to be in because I feel like you're constantly suppressing the boredom and you're constantly just kind of suppressing just the idleness in a sense. And I feel like if you're continuously expecting to make sure you feel this, real good high, of just feeling good in general, while you're doing these mundane tasks, then you're just withering away at your mental health. You're gonna expect to be, always on 10 when you're really not. And it's just kind of, I feel like it's gonna make you hate life in a sense. And I feel like we all need those moments of just idleness. Like, when you have those moments when you just turn your brain off, like I said, you're just taking out the trash and you're just not even thinking, right? You're just idleness. I feel like those moments are valuable. Those moments are really valuable. And for TikTok and, content creators to constantly kind of push this narrative out that you need to be doing this 100% of the day, which, like going at my last point, they don't even do. All right, they don't even do it. I'll be real. If I made a video talking about I wake up my 5 a.m. morning routine, look, from creator to viewer, right? Look, I probably missed a day or two. All right, I probably missed a day or two. I'm not even saying that I'm doing it 100% of the day. So why do you expect to do it 100% of the day just because you see a content creator, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, just any platform, talking about, how they romanticize their life and, I love doing this. How do you truly know? How do you truly know they truly love it? They might be freaking dead inside, right? They might be hating it inside, but you don't know just because it's a smile and a happy track music and some, a lot of editing, you think that they're fine. Surface level problems. Now, there are some surface level problems in general when I observe a person who is, constantly consuming this form of content and even talking to some people. I've noticed that one particular problem that a lot of them have is trying to fit one aesthetic. Now, this one really bothers me because this is just quite literally goes to show you you have no identity, all right. You have no real substance. You're trying to fit, you study, imagine you study a whole aesthetic, and I'm just going to use dark academia for an example. I barely know any, I'm going to be real. So if you have any, use it in this example as well. You try to dissect the mannerisms, the hobbies they like, their thought process, just their style, the room, everything. You dissect everything down to a T, and you try to embody this whole thing. That is so limiting, beyond limiting. You're telling me that you're pigeonholing yourself to an aesthetic that you saw online, right? And I don't mean this to say like, like to degrade you or anything, but I'm just really putting it in perspective. I'm assuming that someone that is watching this video is, going through this right now. You're really putting yourself through one aesthetic when, let's just be real, right? Life, if you're being yourself, you're made up of a lot of different things, right? You can like more than one aesthetic. You can, okay, even if you want to, take things away from different aesthetics, that is fine. But to pigeonhole yourself, that you're so limiting yourself to just basically talking to a certain group of people. Maybe you're doing activities that you don't even want to do, right? You might love sports, but you're forcing yourself to go to museums, or you're forcing yourself to go to fields and live this kind of cottage core lifestyle, baking pies and, picking flowers, have a basket with you like an accessory, when you don't even like that. You don't even like that. And a lot of people, they don't even want to consider the fact, right, to question this, because it's just questioning their belief system, it's questioning their identity. And they know that, let's be real, if they were to really dissect this, they're gonna realize that it's foolish, right? A good example that I love talking about, a good example I love to bring up is, right, I love different things, right? I love basketball, I love filming, I mean, that's pretty much all I love. Hey, yo, that's kind of, hey, yo, but that's really all I really do, I'll be real. But let's just say those two things, right? I am not a hooper. I don't even really consider myself a content creator, right? I am Apollo who does content creation, who does film. I'm Apollo who does play basketball. It's more so of, if we're kind of looking at it as like the sun, that's so crazy to say, but essentially like it's Apollo in the middle, and all the other hobbies and all that, it revolves around, is an extension, essentially is an extension of my identity. It's not what I classify as. All right. Like I said, I love basketball, bro. I play basketball like, honestly, like 8 to 10 hours a week. It's kind of nasty, I'm gonna be real. But I'm not a hooper. I don't even train. I don't even train like wake up at 5 a.m. training. I just love hooping. I love filming. I don't consider myself these things because that's so limiting. Imagine if I said I was a hooper and I couldn't, because of that, I had to be in the gym 24/7. I couldn't film. What? That's lame. That's absolutely lame to live your life. And to think that people live their life like this through an aesthetic is sad. It really is sad. The worst part of this all is that you can spend years. There's people that have spent literal years chasing this desire, chasing this fake reality of wanting to live out this aesthetic down to a T. Eventually, bro, some people will legitimately, like, let's say cottagecore, for example, some people would legitimately want to move. They base their whole moving decisions based on aesthetics. Now, well, this is a little bit rare because typically aesthetics are, a lot of people who consume it are like kind of like teenagers, preteens, young adults, but it happens. All right, it happens. And it's crazy that this is a thing that you can spend years, the same way how we talk about how people will spend years of their lives trying to build a business just to chase these desires, right? People will chase the money, chase the fame. It's crazy how people will do the same thing for these aesthetics. It's sad, right? There's people who will legitimately do this. And the worst part of it all is that, right, they know, right? A lot of these people, let's be real, they know deep down, All right, they know deep down that this is not them. I don't think that a lot of these people who actually do this are completely just brain dead. They have no idea what they're, talking about, what they're doing, and they're just more so, they're just brainless, right? Like they just no, like I think if you were to really sit down a person who was basing their life and chasing this fake reality of living in an aesthetic, they know deep down, right? But it's the same thing with music. The same thing we do with music, specifically rap music, and how a lot of people, right? A lot of people have these desires. I talked to someone at work and they're like, yeah, man, I want a track hawk. I want, this and that. And I noticed that a lot of these, desires that we have, like I said, it's the same thing with music, right? We see all these rappers talking about, I'm driving a foreign, this and that. I got, a paddock, all these, materialistic items. And, now we're like, we listen to this, right? Because typically, let's be real, we're not listening to one rap song and turning off. Let's be real. We're probably listening to a lot, right? Hours at that. And if you're constantly listening to that, now all of a sudden you're thinking, oh man, like I want this. I want this paddock. I want this track hawk right here, bro. Do you actually want that? Like a genuine question. Do you actually want that? Like, let's be real. After this video, heck, pause the video right now. Pause the video and actually question, do you really genuinely want the desires that you really want? If you want it, for sure, right? Why it's not even more so that you can't get these desires. It's not that I don't believe that you can't. It's more so of saving the time and energy and the mental space. You don't need to really change. You don't need to chase and get the newest wardrobe just to fit this one aesthetic. You don't. You absolutely do not. And if you're someone right now watching this who is embodying an aesthetic right now, if you're still watching this, genuinely question yourself, genuinely ask yourself, do you really truly want this? Because I think the worst thing that can come from this, and you guys let me know, what do you think is the worst thing that can come from this? But what I think personally is that imagine you have that reality. All right, visualize with me. Imagine you're living out your dream. You're in a ranch house. You have your baskets, you're picking it out, flowers every day. You're going through the fields, and you get back home. You get back home, you take a shower. You get out of the shower, and after you get out of the shower, you stand in your living room. You look around you, and you see that you made it, right? By the standards of everyone else. All the people that you've told before that you wanted to live out this aesthetic, all the vision boards, all the Pinterest saved pins you have, you made it. But you continue looking at it and you're just, as the silence consumes you, you're just thinking of how you wasted your time, of how you don't really want this. You're thinking about your friends, the friends that you most likely left behind to fit this aesthetic, all of the activities that you truly want to do, they're gone. And now you're just sitting there questioning, who even am I? Who am I? Why did I do this? You know what I mean? Like, that right there has to be the most chilling experience, to genuinely settle in and realize that you wasted your time. All you really wanted was just to have a fulfilling career. All you really wanted was just to have fulfilling hobbies and, passions and health. But instead, you traded your well-being for this aesthetic. The next point that I did say I was going to touch on earlier in the video, we're here. All right, so basically what I was saying is, when I was talking about how people will get mad at each other, right? I feel like you start to develop this tunnel vision. Essentially, you develop this kind of tunnel vision of viewing everything in the world as your aesthetic, in a sense. Now, this doesn't mean that you view a freaking, I don't know, bro, a telephone pole as something, but I mean more so in the sense of, you will try, right? You will probably drive that extra mile, the extra 5 miles to go to that park that fits the aesthetic more. You will try to find that scenery just to fit the aesthetic, right? And you do all these activities while you're trying to do the aesthetic. And one of the problems that spurts from that through this tunnel vision is that now you don't view the actual thing, you don't actually view it for what it is, essentially. Instead of viewing a nice, you're at the beach and you're, the water, the waves, it's sunset and all that. Instead of actually taking it in and, liking it for what it is and being present with that, instead you're trying to fit this aesthetic. You're trying to, I don't know, bro, I don't know what aesthetic would be go with a beach, but I don't know, let's just say you're trying to freaking, I don't even know, bro. I don't know, bro. You're trying to freaking, I don't even know, but essentially you're doing something, right? And instead of actually taking it in, you're just doing something that you don't even truly want to do. And the worst part of it all, like I said, this is already bad enough if you're already doing this, but with other people as well. You might be in a group of friends, and instead of, all your friends playing around, at the park and whatnot, you're over here trying to be mysterious and, I don't even know, bro, trying to read a book under a tree, trying to be like that kind of mystique, I'm just that, that bookworm aesthetic. A bookworm aesthetic. Like, if you don't come and play football with us, you know what I'm saying? Like, and because you're developing this mindset, right? A lot of people, they blame other people. They blame their parents. They start blaming their parents for the way the house was before, even though they had no problem with it until they watch the aesthetic videos and they try to embody, dreamcore. Until they started to embody dreamcore, that's when they started caring about, the room setup is all weird for this and that, right? It's just not possible, right? No one is going to stop what they're doing, construct their whole room, the whole living situation rather, right? Especially if we're talking about a room or, God forbid, even like a city, right? Like a freaking, I don't even know, like a city park. No one is going to do it. No one is going to go out of their way to make it perfect for you to fit your aesthetic. No one is not. It's the same thing with like TikTokers filming, videos out in public, right? If I'm filming a video out in public, right, I 100% expect to be, for people to be in the shot, to people to be walking by and all this. That is fine, right? Doesn't mean you can't film outside. Obviously be respectful with it and, be mindful of where you're filming. But if you're just filming outside in a park, you can film outside, but just be mindful that people might go through. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that because I understand that I'm filming in a public location where there's going to be people, right? If I'm filming in a room and someone passes by, all right, cool, that's different. But it's the same thing with this, bro. You can have your room, right? You can have your room to be aesthetically pleasing. That's fine, whatnot. Unless you're sharing a room and you just take over someone else's room, right? But if you're going out in public trying to live out this aesthetic, put it to the side. All right, put it to the aside. Or if you do have your little space outside, realize that people might, come and go and, I don't want to say even ruin it, because they're not ruining, they're just living their life. But because you're trying to fit this aesthetic, you're viewing it as they're ruining my time, my aesthetic, my life, this and that. And this is just a toxic mindset, because I think this is what really pushes you away from the people, especially the people that you're supposed to be with, is because, you essentially hate on them for no reason. Or actually there is a reason, but the reason is kind of foolish. The last point that I have is the idolization of disturbing aesthetics. Now, there are some disturbing aesthetics out there. Now, there's some clean ones. Majority of, I would say, the aesthetic landscape is pretty tame, actually. Some of them being a little bit more productive than others. Some of them being a little bit more weird, but nonetheless, right, it's still tame for the most part. Then there's a few of, at least that I've actually, covered, some kind of a little edgier ones, a little bit, like trauma core, weird core, medical core, and even drug core, right? These are kind of a little bit more disturbing aesthetics. And, the same way how, I was talking about how people embody this aesthetic, this is even more dangerous when it comes to actual dangerous like aesthetics. These are, like drug core is a serious aesthetic that, let's be real, if you follow to a T, it's only going to be destructive, right? It's only going to be destructive. And what's worse is specifically with this, aesthetics, it's not even just the videos. It's not even just the photos. It's the music. Sometimes it's even the video games. Sometimes there'll be, like liminal spaces. There'll be like liminal spaces in video games. But, there's other forms of media that accompany this aesthetic. And if you're constantly surrounding yourself around this aesthetic, and maybe even forums and wiki pages, and connecting with like-minded people that embody this aesthetic as well, and kind of creating this group thing in the context of these disturbing aesthetics, it's bad. It's not good. You're going to be constantly surrounding yourself around all of this negative content, reprogramming your subconscious mind to just constantly feed yourself this negative loop. And the more that you consume it and all this, it's just going to get darker and darker and darker over time. Sure, it might not get dark in a month, but if we're talking about months and years of programming, listening to me, all this and that, it can really do a number on you. And the worst of it all is your self-perception, right? Which we'll get into a lot heavily into the next section. But your self-perception is the most important thing when it comes to everything in life. And when you taint that, well, then at that point you're pretty much I don't want to say corrupt all the way, but it's not going to be good. It's just not going to be good. You're only going to be attracting just negative, more and more negative experiences, and this is really the worst of it all. However, with all of this discussion, we're having a really great discussion. I'm actually really loving this. Now I want to get into the deeper reasonings why, right? Why would someone get into all of this? And let's just observe the more internal factors that go into this when it comes to aesthetics. You know what I learned from watching all of these videos and even just this discussion right now? No one wants to be different. All right, everyone wants to talk about, oh, I want to be different from other people and this and that. No, stop lying. You don't truly want to be different if you're embodying aesthetics, bro. You just don't, right? It feels like over these past 5 years or so, we've been getting more commercials and just seeing throughout more social media of this promotion of being different. And we see people with blue hair and, like more just bold outfits, different from out there, instead of, your typical kind of suit and tie, right? Well, that's more so like corporate, but like suit and ties, or just your normal kind of attire. Now I'm wearing these clothes, right? Because it embodies me, for sure, right? For sure. I like the promotion of it, for sure. But my problem with it is, like I said, if you're living out an aesthetic down to a T, are you really being different? All right, now let's be real. You might be different from your family, right? In real life, if you embody an aesthetic, right, you're probably going to be different from your brothers, from your sisters, from your friends, from your parents, from your people in your genuine real life. Sure, at that point, they might look at you and be like, oh, bro, you're different. Like, you've been dressing different. You feel me? Like, man, you're really different. Okay, cool, right? You might be perceived as different from real life perspective. But if you're constantly surrounding yourself online, if your mental diet is trying to find the newest aesthetic and trying to fit this aesthetic, are you truly different? You're not truly different at that point. It's right. Instead of just genuinely being you, now you're trying to look and trend surf and trend hopping and all this and that. And essentially the internet, like, you're essentially a slave to the internet. You're a slave to Pinterest, right? You might be different in real life, but you're not different in the internet sense, if that kind of makes sense. And what I really notice is that when you truly want to be different from other people, when you truly want to be yourself, like how I was saying earlier, you don't body an aesthetic. You're just a collection of all these different things. You're a collection of, sports. You might like sports. You might even like a little bit of cottagecore and what it has. You might like these different aspects of these different aesthetics. Even then, right? I don't even want to say the word aesthetics, because that's grouping all of these things. Are we really, picking flowers and picking apples from a tree? Are we calling that an aesthetic? I don't think we should. So rather, let me reframe my sentence. I think that these hobbies and these things, right, you can embody, not even embody, but you can incorporate these things into your life, but you don't have to identify by them. You don't have to identify by, the person, the bookworm, and this and that. That's how you truly be different. But what's crazy is that the internet nowadays, right, especially in this aesthetic field, no one wants that. Right? No one wants you to truly be different in this space because it's not aesthetically pleasing, right? It's, wait, hold on. Dark academia? You're trying to embody dark academia, but you have a basketball collection? What? That don't make no sense. Nah, skip. When it's like, bro, what? being different is not made for the internet, specifically in this subculture right here. This is not made for it, which is fine, because if you're truly being yourself, why would you be consuming this content? At least on a regular basis, or at the very least, trying to embody this, right? You can consume it every once in a while, fine. I do a little bit, but I'm conscious enough to know that this is not who I'm going to embody, right? And it's crazy. Like, I feel like, there's definitely spaces out there where you can be yourself, but just this space in particular, you really can't. You genuinely really can't. But if you are being yourself, that doesn't shouldn't even really bother you. For me saying that, it's kind of expected. Another issue that I have with this on a deeper level is that people that embody this aesthetic will essentially minimize the value of other things in their life. I talked about in the looks maxing video earlier how if you only do the habits and you're expecting a physical result, like how can this physically benefit me, how can this and that, you're minimizing the value of the habit that you're doing, and you're strictly looking at it through the lens of the physical aspects. And it's the same thing with this. If you're only viewing things through the aspect of how does this benefit me in my aesthetic, you're minimizing the value of this. And it sucks that not only does this happen with objects in particular, right, but even with people, right? I don't want to be with this person because it doesn't fit the aesthetic. I need someone, who dresses like this, and all, who acts like this, and who thinks like this, when that person might not even really be for you. Let's be real. There might be a person that's meant for you in a romantic context, or even just in a friendship context, but you're not going to meet them because they don't fit your aesthetic criteria. That's simply foolish. You're diminishing the value and looking at it through the lens of an aesthetic. And it can even be flipped otherwise. You might even consciously know that, this aesthetic that I'm embodying, I don't actually like. I don't like embodying this aesthetic and that positive thoughts and this and that, right? Let's say a sad boy aesthetic. You want to, be the sad boy and kind of, man, I'm just a sad lover boy, this and that, right? But deep down that this is a foolish line of thinking, because let's say you're conscious enough to think that, hey, if I continuously think like this, I'm going to be attracting negative experiences because it's in my subconscious mind now, right? That thinking positively, right, is better for you. That these positive habits are better for you, but because you're essentially holding the identity of a person, of a sad boy, and there's a person, let's say, of that guy aesthetic, right? Like, he's him, right? He's wake up at 5 a.m. He's him. These two different aesthetics, because you're embodying the sad boy aesthetic, you can't make this jump. And you're only viewing everything through the sad boy aesthetic lens. Terrible, absolutely terrible. And that you don't want to make the jump. You want to, but you're scared to make the jump, because at the end of the day, right, this kind of goes with anything in life. It's about the identity. Like I said, everything ties back to the identity. And just in general, when it comes to deeply rooted change that we go through in our life, like I talked about in the last video as well, I talked about change, right? Deeper level change is tough. It takes time. It's genuinely tough when it comes to the identity. And if you're constantly submerging yourself with this content, then of course it's going to be harder and harder to change your aesthetic. If I body the aesthetic of a sad boy at this very moment, 10 minutes from now, man, what is that? Get that out of here. Come on. But if I constantly, reprogram my mind to be a sad boy for the next 5 months, 6 months, okay, we got issues, right? There's going to be problems. There's going to be problems for me changing, because at the end of the day, what accompanies these thoughts? It's your beliefs as well as your stories, right? If you think you're the sad boy, he always gets rejected, right? And you think like this, and then you actually get rejected, you're adding on to that identity, to that story. So now you need to create you need to create a new identity, right? Obviously, don't let it be an aesthetic identity, please. But you create a new identity, and now you need new beliefs, new stories, new thoughts, new cycles. And making that jump, it could be hard. I don't blame anyone who's been, living out this aesthetic for years, making it like it's hard for them to make that jump and to genuinely change their identity. But just knowing that you need to do it and taking the steps, the slow steps, the shadow work, the introspection, it's honestly much needed. Another common thing that I see that goes with the identity aspect of a person, embodying aesthetics, is the illusion of control. Now, I feel like this is why primarily a lot of people not only embody an aesthetic, but if it gets broken down, they try to find a new aesthetic, right? This is gonna be crazy. So let's review it. If someone who embodies an aesthetic, right, what were they beforehand? Right, they probably felt like a no one. They felt like they were a drifter, a floater in life. They liked, all these different things, but they just didn't like themselves. They didn't know who they were. So instead of sitting down and doing the introspection, sitting in a room, no technology, and genuinely just sitting there asking yourself, who am I? Right, and having a deep, fulfilling conversation, they instead run to the internet to essentially solve that problem, right? An external source, and they use an external source to fix an internal problem, right? And a lot of people, like I said, when they find an aesthetic, right, when they find that one aesthetic they can embody down to a T, what do they feel? What is that feeling? It's the sense of control. They now have a sense of control, right? They're drippier now. They have, you feel me? They embody the aesthetic now, man. They feel like they in control, bro. A whole new level of confidence. You feel me? Like, hey, man, you might, embody that lover boy aesthetic. You might buy a guitar. Hey, man, you feel me? It's a new era of me, bro. I'm in control. You feel me? And then life happens, right? Life happens and life breaks you down. Now, I feel like life can break you down in multiple sections. It can break you down on a more external level. Maybe it could be, external change, or it can be internal change. It can be deeply rooted change. And when honestly, it can happen either way. But when someone, who embodies the lover boy aesthetic, but just pick any other aesthetic, but the lover boy aesthetic, and they're going through life and life happens, what happens? Their false sense, right, their structure, the foundation that they thought they had, that was a strong foundation of control, is broken. They realize it was made out of Play-Doh. All right, the foundation was made out of Play-Doh, and it crumbles. Their identity crumbles. Their sense of control, the illusion of control, kicks in. And now they're scrambling. They're thinking, oh my gosh, bro, what the heck, bro? I thought I was a lover boy this whole time. Bro, what do I do? Now, this is an important section. This is an important factor, right? This is a crossroad. From here, some people, you can either, actually question yourself and be like, you know what? That was kind of foolish. It was kind of foolish of me to, to embody this aesthetic. Let me actually do the work and find out who I actually am. Let me be myself, right? There's that one road. And then there's the other road, in the sad road of embodying another aesthetic, or trying to fix a part, right? Your vase breaks, and you try to piece together the freaking pieces with glue, like you see in the cartoons. You do that with your identity, with your illusion. It's an illusion. You're trying to repair something that you thought you had control of in the first place, when you simply didn't. Right, you simply did not have control of this, and it can really cause this sense of dread. It can, this disillusion. It is terrible, right? I'm kind of tripping over my words because I'm just trying to genuinely picture someone who is trying to piece together their life together because they couldn't fit an aesthetic, and it's sad, right? It's a negative cycle that's sad because it goes to show you, man, like, they don't even know themselves. Right, a lot of these people, as much as we can clown on the people for these aesthetics and, bro, that is completely foolish, why are you doing that? It's kind of sad in a way, because you realize that they just simply don't know themselves. Right, and I think knowing yourself is a whole life journey for sure, but, it sucks that it can take someone spending X amount of money making costumes and, living out this aesthetic, cutting people off, and just for them to have this sense of control, have this sense of identity, to fit in, right? How many people do you think that go to Comic Cons or furry cons and all this and that, right? A lot, sure, a lot of them do genuinely enjoy it. I'm not saying they don't. But there's that little subsection, that little section of people who just doing it just so they can fit in. They just wanted to do this so they can fit in. They just wanted to do this just to feel like they belong somewhere, to feel like, like, I'm actually like someone. I'm someone in my life, even if it's on a smaller scale. And that sucks. That genuinely sucks to think about, which is why, like I said, I'm kind of talking from the perspective of I'm picturing right now like I'm talking to someone who is genuinely like in this subculture, this community, and I'm trying to like kind of shake your shoulders like, yo, like wake up, you know? But at the same time I have sympathy because I understand that it's much deeper than just, seeing something on TikTok and, just wanting to embody it. It's deeper. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was kind of a little bit more of a different type of video essay. It kind of felt like I had a different vibe to it, but I hope you guys genuinely enjoyed the video. Let me know, for real, like genuinely let me know in the comment section below your experiences with this community. Genuinely, I want to know, like, were you in this community? To the people who were in this community and that are out of it, how was your experience? What did you want to embody? Tell me your aesthetic that you chose, or multiple aesthetics that you chose. To the people who don't, in this community, what is your perspective? Or to the people who are still in this community and that are, still embodying all these aesthetics like I talked about, share your opinion. Share me your perspective on this, and maybe even your reasonings to why you're still, embodying these aesthetics. I want to have a deep conversation in the comment section below on this. I'm really curious. Like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next upload. Peace.